Climate change is Jal Vayu Parivartan. Water is the other side of climate change. Jal, Aaj or Kal. That would be my single point message. Think a little ahead and we will all make it there.
Welcome to this episode of Sustainability Karma. I'm your host Rajiv Tikoo. Today we talk about the World Water Week, 25th to 29th August 2024. And we have a very special guest with us, Shraman Jha. He's head of Hindustan Unilever Foundation, which is a CSR arm of Hindustan Unilever. Hindustan Unilever Foundation has been at the forefront of addressing water scarcity through innovative local water governance and sustainable farming practices. Welcome, Shraman Jha, to this episode of Sustainability Karma.
Thanks a lot, Rajiv, for having me.
What is the importance of World Water Week theme this year? Bridging borders, water for a peaceful and sustainable future.
So multiple words that come in: borders, peaceful, and sustainable. And all of these have wide repercussions. Let me start with the most obvious and the most talked about in the global side. When you talk about the Middle East and the borders on the Middle East, particularly with a reference to Israel, Palestine, Jordan, and many of those countries, it's the river Jordan which forms the boundary. Because it's at times not even 10 feet wide. So there's a lot which just happens around that, and that becomes almost a starting and the most obvious point of a conversation around borders. And then immediately that leads on to peace and the rest. Closer home, just a few months ago, water was all in the headlines because one of the most forward-looking cities in India, Bangalore, was grappling with a water crisis, and it suddenly made national news. With the onset of the monsoons, the discussions around water seems to disappear, as if the problems have all gone away. Right. But all of us know that they haven't. So the whole sweep of this particular theme this week is extraordinarily relevant. It kind of cuts across, whether it's you take a national perspective, you take a global perspective, you take the issues between states on the division of river water, which are often very contentious. The fact is, whether you have too little or too much, it remains an issue, and it remains to be understood. It remains to be talked about before it can be sorted out. So a very topical one this year. And now it's almost the 33rd year of the World Water Week. So it's built up a history of its own.
What made HUL choose water as an issue to look at instead of a host of other issues?
So when HUL set up HUF as a separate foundation, it was well before the CSR laws came into India a decade back. So it was a decision to kind of contribute back to society in a meaningful way, regardless of any mandatory pressure, because at that point in time, no such thing existed. There was a lot of discussion on what aspect and what area to choose, because there are a number of good causes that you can go after. And after a lot of thought and evaluation on the materiality of it, it was zeroed down that what we'll focus on will be on water security. That is, first, the adequacy of water at the right time. And water is, when you look at it, it's not an end by itself. It kind of cuts across almost anything that you have to do, from livelihoods. It cuts across into gender, it cuts across into human health, it cuts into animal health and livestock health. So it has so many different ramifications. So it was one of the very fairly sharp choices that was made more than a decade ago, that if we can look at the broad area of water security, and a country as complex and diverse as India, there is no one cause and one effect which needs to be sorted for. Everything is very different. That it gave us that, and it was an area that we could work on in scale, where we could leverage some of the intrinsic strengths of the mother organization HUL, and that became the single dominant mandate for HUF when it was set up.
How do you sum up the impact of Hindustan Unilever Foundation interventions?
We do realize at the outset our limitation. We are a private foundation. India is a very large, complex country. There's no way that one foundation can solve all the kinds of problems. So what we have set out to do, and that I think is our greatest impact, is that we've looked at different kinds of situations, different kinds of communities, and try to see what will work in those contexts that will happen. And once we've been able to succeed in that over a period of time, we've captured the learnings and put it out all on the public domain, as well as sharing it with a number of other NGO partners, and also to sharing it with other foundations, so that anyone else who wants to work on it, they take it up and they run with it. So I think that has been our core part, that we've done it that way. And second, it's not about providing more water. That would be far too simplistic. It's about making the communities secure on water, so that even after the program support ends, they continue doing what they have to, so and remain water secure forever. That's the whole stance, and that is where we believe the contribution of the foundation comes best.
Would you like to share some numbers?
Well, one of the key metrics that we choose to measure is a term called water potential. That is either how much extra water has been made available, or by making a shift from current practices, how much of water has got saved. We've done about 3.2 trillion liters over the last 10 years, cumulative and collective. That's cumulative over these 10-year period, and collective with the work that we do with our partners. So put that in context, since the average male or average adult consumes about 3 liters of water as per the WHO. If you were to do the mathematics, this translates to more than the quantum of water required for 2 years of drinking water for the whole population of India of 140 odd crores. So that's the reference. But we are aware that in totality, this is still a drop compared to what needs to be done. But we do believe that it's a reasonable start.
As a nation, we're also grappling with the achieving our SDGs. Why do we stand?
It's a long journey. The interesting part about water is that it cuts across multiple SDGs, not just the overt ones. For example, if you look at SDG 1, no poverty. If there is water, there will be good cultivation, there'll be better health, etc. And your ability to earn a livelihood, all that transforms poverty alleviation, very big one. SDG 2, zero hunger. Direct correlation, again, if you're able to produce the right kind of food more efficiently, cuts in. SDG 3, good health and well-being, cuts across. Number 5 is perhaps closest to my heart. It's on gender equality. Because what is often not understood is what a strong gender bias there is to the issue of water. There's so many dimensions to it.
Apart from water access, equity is a big challenge in India. What would be your prescription for addressing it and making quick progress here?
I go back to our freedom struggle and to the early 1930s, when Mahatma Gandhi undertook the Dandi March and picked up that fistful of salt. That quantity of salt was immaterial, but it raised the consciousness of the people as well as at that time of the colonial government. For me, the starting point of any prescription would be awareness. The starting point of awareness is that you become conscious of the fact that water is a finite, precious resource and has to be used with a little more responsibility than we have to. All the other answers will flow from that, whether it's from the usage side or it is from the supply or from the supply side.
Even if people are aware, it doesn't translate into action. Now, is there some mantra to translate this awareness into action also?
Once awareness comes, we have to look at small wins, small differences which are made, that yes, I too can make a difference, or a community can make a difference by itself. Once the story of successes start coming through, it tends to have a multiplier effect and snowballs into something which is far bigger in impact than it were. Again, I go back to Gandhiji's fistful of salt, that it almost set up a whole, gave a huge infusion to the entire freedom struggle. So sometimes these gestures matter. It's important to have small wins and to talk about these small wins. So I think the power of demonstration is an immense power that we can have.
Globally, the attention is mostly focused on carbon emissions. While as everybody realizes that water is probably the more immediate and existential kind of a challenge we have. So what would you say to that?
Carbon gets linked to the broader issue of climate change.
Mhm.
And I think the Indians have done a wonderful job in how they have translated climate change in Hindi or in any other Indian language.
Mhm.
Climate change is Jal Vayu Parivartan,
Mhm.
change in water and air.
Mhm.
So it just very quickly brings us to the fact that water is the other side of climate change. It's just another manifestation. Any dimension where we talk about carbon, carbon gets linked to global warming and multiple other things.
Mhm.
But what happens when there is global warming?
Mhm.
You talk of the sea level rising because the North Pole, South Pole, they will start melting. Sea waters will. That's a water impact. What happens to that water?
Mhm.
It floods the areas. It will salinize the soil. It will salinize the groundwater water reserves. It will upset the water cycle as we have known it. So you cannot look at carbon without looking at water, and vice versa. These two are far more interlinked, and I think just the simple Indian term of Jal Vayu Parivartan captures this linkage better than any other form. So there are different sides of looking at the same coin.
Coming to corporates, now we have seen a lot of focus on ESG, and ESG is more getting focused on carbon emissions generally. But in terms of water, also there's lots of emphasis in ESG frameworks on also wastewater management, recycling. Would you like something more to be added there?
Yeah, the fact that ESG is now so commonly talked about itself is a huge step forward.
Mhm.
And going back to my previous point of securing small wins, if corporates can start, and corporates are not just the big, huge corporates, but also the smaller ones, if they all can start doing their bit and winning their small battles
Mhm.
around ESG, whatever they have set out to do, it will set us very much on the path to what India has committed, also to on the international fora for meeting our specific requirements. I think it's important to state that it's not that the problem will end in 2030 or in 2040. They are going to be a fundamental way in the way we lead our lives and the way corporates function as well, both on the same time. So these all have to be interlinked. Solutions found, alternatives found, consensus emerged as we go forward. It's not a situation where I win and you lose, or you win and I lose. It just wouldn't work in that paradigm. So it's a fundamentally different way that we are all in it together, and it's going to impact all of us, and that's how we will need to go through with this.
Given that, finally, what would be your message on the World Water Week this year?
Jal, aaj aur kal. That is water for today, but also water for tomorrow. So keep that in mind that as lives go on in our generations and beyond, we have to not just take care of our needs today, but also of needs tomorrow. So Jal, Aaj, or Kal, just that would be my single point message. Think a little ahead, and we will all make it there. There are so many manifestations to water, and I'm extremely delighted that water is now being talked about at the highest levels of government. In fact, last year in his Vijayadashmi address, the Prime Minister talked of water as the priority, national priority number one. So the fact that is at least getting talked about at the highest levels is to bringing a great way. All of us have a role to play. Policy makers have a role to play. Corporates have a role to play. Farmers and agriculturists have a role to play. Seed technology companies have a role to play, and folks like you who are powerful influencers in media have a very significant role to play in just making us all conscious about it.
Yes, thank you, Shraman. Thank you for highlighting how water has been moving up on the agenda at policy level and political leadership level also.
My pleasure entirely, Rajiv.
We hope you like this program. This program is also live streamed on All India Radio and aired on community radio stations. We look forward to your feedback on our WhatsApp number 98181205554. For participation in this program, write to us at sustainability.karma@gmail.com. You may also connect with us on social media. This podcast is also available on podcast hosting sites. Looking forward to meet you again at the same time next week with a new episode and a new guest. Till then, goodbye from all of us. Sustainability Karma, a podcast series with senior journalist and editor Rajiv Tikoo on sustainable development, sustainability and ESG.